Hi, welcome back to the Talking Sales series, and I'm delighted to have Jim Duffy with me. G'day, Jim.
Good to see you, John. Nice to be on your show.
Hey, for those that don't know Jim, the reason I've got him on the show is that Jim achieves an outstanding result for his clients in creating or getting a commitment to a meeting. And so it's lead generation, it's cold calling, and so on and so forth. And I really wanted to know why he got that result. Now, let me tell you what that result is. He gets 6 out of 10 commitments to a meeting for his clients on every cold call he makes. Now, that's incredible. That's incredible. And so we need to learn from Jim as to why he gets such wonderful results so that we can look at improving our own performance in prospecting. So, Jim, welcome. And look, you and I have agreed there's going to be 3 things we'll talk about, which really gets the results for you. First is your focus, your targeting. Second is the research you do before you make the call. And then the final thing is the call itself. And I want to have 3 separate interviews with you, very short ones that will focus on each one of those 3. So let's start with the focus, the targeting. Tell me about how you target and why it's so important.
Okay, targeting is absolutely imperative. So what I do, just like in an email campaign, I create a persona. And not only do I create a persona, I go even further down in terms of targeting to go to a sub persona. So I will bring in a particular, so in my business, I work with lawyers, and I also work with forensic accountants. Those lawyers are in different niches, and commercial litigators, I've put them into about 45 different buckets. So when I'm calling on a particular group, I'm focused on only one subsegment of commercial litigation. So for example, commercial litigation is the big higher level thing. Then we narrow it down to intellectual property. But then we narrow it down even further to intellectual property in the music business. So I have people that are forensic accountants that create damage assessments on cases. So they're a particular expert that are focused on litigation, commercial litigation focused on the music business. And I'll call that an attorney all day long.
And their customer is the litigation lawyer, right? That's who they're selling their services to.
They're selling their service specifically to litigation attorneys.
So you're doing the outbound call to set up an appointment for them with a litigation lawyer. So that is your business.
That is my business.
Okay, so, got it.
So let's just give it a quick, for instance. So you've got a person like Bob Dylan, who has a litigation matter. Everybody knows who Bob Dylan is. He goes to his attorney then employs the forensic accountant. So that's how the targeting gets done.
Okay, so you're making this call on behalf of the forensic accountant to lawyers so that they can get a meeting with them to sell their services.
Correct.
Okay, so that's incredible targeting. Your background's IT and technology and telecommunications and so on. So what made you move into that arena?
Well, you know what? Over the course of my entire career, I've probably made over 1 million dials in my career. And I started out in a transactional type sales career. And then I moved up as I continued to have success in cold calling to an IT infrastructure services business. And I did well in that business. But about 7 years ago, I decided to exit that arena and get into my own lead generation business. And, I was getting up in my years and it was getting a little bit tougher to stay in that arena. So I opened up my own firm.
Obviously, you came into a really targeted area, and that's one of the reasons you get the results. So tell me about what went through your mind and how you went around about choosing your target, and then, as you say, the granular level within that target.
Well, Jen, I wish I could say that I was really smart and I did all this research and figured out. I think the target found me. So in other words, I had actually had IT infrastructure service companies, HR companies, and my third client was a forensic accountant. So once I found this little niche, I said, this is a great, great market. And I decided to get rid of all my other clients and focus specifically on that niche. So actually the niche chose me.
Now there's a lesson in that, and I've always been a great proponent for organizations. My background is IT, technology, software, and so on. Great proponent for having sales territories that are very, if you like, industry focused or very focused in one area or another. So as you know, I've written a book, which is The Wentworth Prospect, which is all about a young lady selling cybersecurity solutions to banks, nothing else. It's the financial industry she's focused on. And for that reason, she develops this brilliant ability or knowledge and understanding, domain expertise in the banking industry around cybersecurity. And she's seen as an expert by her clients, and she can pick up the phone and have a discussion with anybody. That level of focus in the way in which we market and sell, I think, is absolutely critical to our success. And you've proven it by your very granular focus on a very specific market.
And the funny thing is, because I'm so focused on this market, I've actually read 100,000 profiles. So I've gained that expert domain in the legal field. So I really understand that in a very intimate level and all the nuances involved in that niche as well.
So your domain expertise in legal litigation and as you say, right down to things like intellectual property and music specifically. And yet 7 years ago, I'm guessing you had no knowledge of that marketplace at all. So you've developed your expertise in a very short amount of time.
I had a scant amount of understanding of that market. Actually, I did work in the legal markets as a vertical for a period of time, but I didn't get into the weeds like I have in this business.
And getting into the weeds is really what makes the difference, isn't it? You do become a domain expert in an area and can have that peer-to-peer conversation with decision makers.
Absolutely. And in one of our future conversations, we'll talk about how much I get into the weeds.
Okay, look, let's leave it at that. I think the first lesson and this first discussion for all of us is targeting. It's using the rifle instead of the shotgun, and you're getting a success level of 6 out of 10 calls you make, cold calls. And you get a result, you get a commitment to a meeting. So you're getting results that most other prospectors would not ever dream of getting. If some people get 2, 3 out of 100, they're delighted. So Jim, there's a real lesson here, and a lesson to everybody out there, that the rifle shot focus versus the shotgun is absolutely critical to our success. And that comes at an organizational level, the way you plan and focus all your resources, but at an individual level, get focused, identify a specific target. And next we'll talk about the research you do to ensure you get the level of hit rate that we're talking about.
This episode of Talking Sales is sponsored by the authors of the new page-turning sales novel, The Wentworth Prospect. In the words of one reviewer, it's B2B sales mastery delivered in an ingenious, engaging, and hugely entertaining way. Get it now at your favorite book retailer.